Please welcome Greg to the stage.
All right, thank you. So today I want to take you through an experience in the last 12 months. And it's what I call the 5 simple strategies to JIRA Service Desk success. So clearly from my accent, originally from Australia, but 12 months ago I moved all the way to San Francisco. Now, if you've heard me talk before, I was previously involved in defense. So ships, the warranty management system for 2 aircraft carriers in Australia is managed in JIRA Service Desk. So I got the opportunity to come to San Francisco and work with companies that are doing things like launching shoebox-sized satellites from the International Space Station, building electric cars, and I thought all of these would be different to what I'd previously done. But one thing I found when I was working consulting with these people is deploying JIRA Service Desk to an organization is one of the most awesome projects because it affects so many people. And the projects are really enjoyable because no one comes to work to provide bad service. So as a consultant, we usually have inbound leads, and people talk about how they want to improve the service management within their organization. They may have some customer-facing system that they'd like to provide customer support, but it all comes down to no one wants to provide this bad service. And normally it'll have some sort of specification about how the workflow is going to work. These are my process diagrams, but that's really cart before the horse, because the reason that you're doing service desk is service delivery. And so I usually need to, with these clients, to sort of take a few steps back, and I'll show you the 5 strategies I use with all of those customers, regardless of what type they are. So, usually we have a conversation about, let's just stop for a moment. I'll give an introduction about how I'm an Australian in America, and then we go from there. So, the very first thing is customer first. And what I see time and time again is someone has a JIRA project that they now want to turn into a service desk project. The problem there is that a service project has to have one single intent, and that is intent to provide service delivery. So the problem here is that the project is used for the team tasks, it is used for, might be used for Scrum or Kanban as well, and now they want to add service management on top. So I say, look, this is a customer first strategy. We need to have one project that will be now used for your service delivery. Then it'll come down to the stakeholder, say, well, I want my project first. And then we'll say, okay, what do you do, and how do you affect the value of the business? And it might actually turn out that the person that's contracting us to do this work doesn't actually have the highest value project. So then you say, okay, well, tell me all the service desks you want to do. And there's usually a program. There's usually IT, followed by HR, followed by finance, then marketing, and usually legal. And so we look at each of those service desks and decide which one of those will provide the highest value and highest team first. Then we get to, usually there's a stack that says, these are all the service requests you want to do. Now I had one last year that had 110 service requests. So can you imagine building a customer service portal in JIRA Service Desk with 110? So I asked them, can we identify a shorter list? And then there was this ongoing debate. And this debate went on for a long time. I said, no. Put it away. I want that person over there to tell me their top 10 requests, and that person not top 10 requests. And when you're dealing with IT, finance, marketing, they can tell you straight away, oh, every day we get a request for a new hire, or every day we get a request for a new laptop. And those form the basis of the top 10 requests. And those top 10 requests will be the only requests that go into the customer portal in the new JIRA Service Desk project. And that just keeps repeating for each project as we go along. But often there are overlap. And so finance might have one, and HR might have one, and we decide which portal they need to go into. It's inconsistent to have different names for the same thing. And so this is really just the customer-first strategy. We start off with this. It's usually on a whiteboard. And we work out what those top 10 requests will be and build that portal. The next is the agent experience. Now that you have what the requests will be, you can start to build what the agents will see. And so we usually get some agents in, and there's usually debate about how these will be organized. Will the queue be by customer request type? Will the queue have assigned to me? And the simplest way to do it in a room is say, on day 1, when this goes live, let's just have teams. That makes a logical progression. Everyone says, yes, my team looks after all the Windows Server requests, or my team looks after all the HR onboarding. And so regardless of customer request type, we do it by team. Next thing I get people is asking automation. And when they look at other tools, one of the biggest things that gets sold on is you can automate everything. Now you don't need to have people involved. Well, again, much like the top 10 requests, it makes sense to use automation where it's appropriate. And so I usually have about 5 rules to start off with, because it's very easy to add an automation rule in to service desk that actually runs away. And when that happens, issues might get closed without someone being involved in it. You may have a performance impact on your system. And so I usually keep the automation rules really, really simple to show the functionality, but don't build every bit of automation in there. The next thing is something I learned a long time ago, and that was about the common experience. If you allow different parts of the business to build their own portal, they'll all build them differently if you're not involved. And so when you're doing a rollout, and you start with, say, IT, and then HR, have IT help HR build it. And then have IT and HR help build the next one, so that they can start to see the similarities and start to build workflows that have common status names. Because the status name in the portal to your customer should be consistent for everything. So don't have one that says open and one that says submitted. Agree on which one of those is going to be. You can make those abstract by matching them to status names in Service Desk, but to your customer, they need to be common. One thing we run into quite often is icons. We'll debate icons for a long time about which one of the JIRA Service Desk icons it can be. Do we have an idea about how many there are? There actually is a limited number, and so we actually use icons from Flat Icon. But then we debate those two to make sure that we're not reusing that icon in another service desk that has a different meaning. Because some of the testing we do when we're deploying these service desks is to ask someone, without seeing the text, what does that mean? Because a lot of people just navigate through your portal looking for the matching icon before they submit their request. So we've done all this. We've built this great custom portal and usually test that. And people have been to my talks before about how do you get people to buy in. We usually buy them biscuits and coffee and sit them down and ask for their feedback. Ask them to use the custom portal the last time that they logged a service request and say, okay, log it in the new portal. Does it make sense? Do the words make sense? And we check on the agent side. But one thing we do now is use the system to deliver the system. So you're on this project and you're asking people to build a custom portal and you're building the agent side of it. Well, you as people who are proposing to do JIRA Service Desk should be using it to deliver JIRA Service Desk. So when we go out and have these conversations with people about does this make sense, we have a JIRA Service Desk portal that's used to give feedback to the team. And this way, people start to get the customer experience so that when you start using terms about customer request types and categories, they know what you're talking about because they've used it themselves to interact with you. And also, on the agent side, it starts to make sure that on the infrastructure side, we have things set up correctly. So we're using it to validate in-feed rules that we have pulling in data coming from another system. So we can get some idea that the system's working as intended. So this is an example of one working on at the moment. This is about 1,000 people and about 15 agents coming from a legacy platform. And here's where we have the help desk. This one in particular is doing JIRA Service Desk and Portfolio and Fisheye and Crucible. So they have more than just Service Desk. But I set up this portal straight away. It's usually JIRA Service Desk Implementation, JSDI. And so any one of my colleagues who work on one of my projects will always see the JSDI project. And it has all these down there. And it's surprising even today, when I was looking today, there are people in the business who've said, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And so when we do the go live, which is next Friday, those things have been considered so there will be a much smoother journey for both the customer experience and for ourselves. And so we always provide a request for feedback in the implementation, but also in the service desk portal that you provide. So you can have your categories, which might be hardware, if it's IT, hardware, software, infrastructure, but down the bottom, add a category called Contact Us. And in that Contact Us, it will contain feedback, but it will also contain a customer request type that is, I just want to speak to someone. Because inevitably in a rollout like this, you'll miss something somewhere, and that there'll be a person somewhere ostracized that they can't get their thing anymore. So always include that. The other thing I see in portals is people want to add everything like the 110. So we're not managing nuclear aircraft carriers here. Most of these businesses, it's actually better to start off with a smaller set, and then looking at the feedback that people have given you in the first month is to then slowly add things. But this isn't just adding new request types, but also fields. Don't add 20 fields. Start off with the minimum set. It's like the minimum viable product. It might be just 4 fields, and those fields let that request get submitted, and for the team who's now using Service Desk to be able to continue their work. But then revise that after 6 weeks. Have a look at, would it be more efficient? Could we get better automation? Could we get the right information at the right time to resolve these calls earlier if we add those fields in? So that applies to both custom fields and custom request type. But also remember that at the end of the day, people have funded this work, whether it's internal or consultants like myself, to get better. And so you want to make sure that in the first month you're reporting on the value of the project, that those top 10 requests were valid, the right service desk, and you haven't impacted the business, because this is all part of a continual service improvement for anyone who follows ITIL. And so we have a look at both the service desk portal that we use, but also encourage our customers for every 6 weeks to look back on theirs as well. So that's mine in a nutshell. It's a lightning talk, and I was always aiming to have my 11 minutes and then have 4 minutes of Q&A. But as I said, this is, in the 12 months that I've been in Palo Alto and San Francisco, these are all common themes. And so I encourage you to help, hopefully these will enlighten you and you can follow these, so that in 12 months' time, come back to wherever the next summit is, that you can be up here giving your talk about your successful Service Desk implementation. Thanks.